A group of friends arrives at a beach, ready to throw an unforgettable party. None of them realize that this place is about to become a deadly trap where only one rule matters: never touch the sand. The group is having the time of their lives. The girls dance in bikinis, drink cocktails, and laugh while the guys joke around, compete in challenges, and fool around near the bonfire. The atmosphere becomes wilder as the night goes on. During a walk along the shore, two friends, Vance and Gilbert, discover a strange, large sphere covered in sticky slime. Assuming it is just some weird piece of trash washed in from the ocean, they drag it closer to the campfire. The party continues until sunrise. Dancing, kissing, alcohol, pranks, and crazy stunts. The night has everything. The next morning, Mitch and Kaylee wake up inside a lifeguard tower. Jonah and Shanda have fallen asleep in a convertible. Vance and Ronnie are passed out in the back seat, while Gilbert wakes up trapped inside a trash can after his friends stuffed him in there as a joke the night before. Marcia wakes up on top of a picnic table and immediately notices that the top of her bikini is missing. She is convinced her friend Heather played a prank on her. Kaylee steps outside and realizes the beach feels strangely empty. Sleeping bags and scattered belongings are everywhere. At that moment, Marcia suddenly feels sick. She starts climbing down from the table, but Kaylee notices something horrifying. A bird landing near the water is instantly dragged beneath the sand. Kaylee screams at Marcia not to touch the ground, but it is already too late. The girl lowers her feet and immediately begins sinking. Marcia panics and desperately tries to pull herself free, but the others are still half asleep and barely understand what is happening. Only Vance rushes to help her, but the moment he steps onto the sand, the same unseen force grabs him too. The group tries starting the car to escape, but the battery is completely dead. Mitch finds a rope inside the lifeguard station and throws it to Vance. For a moment, it looks like they might save him, but whatever is beneath the sand is unbelievably strong. Vance's body begins twisting and snapping as he is dragged down in front of everyone's eyes. Seconds later, the sand completely swallows him. Marcia suffers the same fate. Ronnie is devastated because Vance was her boyfriend. At that moment, everyone realizes this is not quicksand. Something far worse is hiding beneath the beach. The teenagers decide to call for help, only to remember that all their phones are locked inside the trunk of the car. The night before, they put them there themselves, so nobody could record embarrassing photos or videos from the party. Kaylee carefully touches the surface of the sand and notices strange, thin strands underneath, almost like tiny hairs or magnetic tentacles. Meanwhile, Gilbert finally wakes up properly inside the trash can and realizes he is stuck. His friends beg him not to move because the bin could tip over onto the sand. At first, Gilbert thinks the whole thing is another prank, but slowly he begins understanding the horror of the situation. Hours pass. The sun becomes unbearably hot. Gilbert starts suffering from heat stroke. Jonah and Shanda drift in and out of sleep inside the car, and the others desperately try to figure out what happened during the night. Kaylee asks the question everyone is thinking: why were they able to walk freely on the beach last night, but now the sand kills anyone who touches it? That is when the horrifying truth finally hits them. Every teenager who disappeared overnight has already been eaten by the creature beneath the sand. Every single one of them. Only this small group is still alive. Soon, Gilbert notices remains of the same slimy sphere he and Vance discovered earlier. That is when the group realizes the truth. It was never trash. It was an egg, and during the night, something monstrous hatched from it. The creature hides beneath the sand and devours every living thing that enters its territory. It was responsible for killing Vance, Marcia, Heather, and all the others. To figure out the monster's range, Kaylee grabs hot dogs from the lifeguard station and throws them across different parts of the beach. The creature instantly drags 2 sausages beneath the sand and even attacks a bird that lands near Gilbert, but the third hot dog remains untouched. That means the monster cannot reach that spot. For the first time, the group gains a small hope of survival. Jonah grabs 2 surfboards and uses them as a bridge to reach the picnic table. Along the way, he argues with Kaylee, jealous of her relationship with Mitch. Just before reaching safety, he feels the board moving beneath his feet. It is as if the monster is intentionally trying to throw him off balance. Thin tentacles burst from the sand and slash Jonah across the stomach. He barely manages to jump onto the table before collapsing unconscious from the pain. When he wakes up, he screams in agony. The pain feels like he has been stung by a giant poisonous jellyfish. Later, Jonah notices something strange. A banana that fell onto the burned remains of the bonfire is completely ignored by the creature. That is when he realizes the monster fears fire, but Jonah's condition rapidly worsens. His wounds become infected and eventually small tentacles even begin emerging from his stomach. Meanwhile, the sand monster slowly reaches the car and starts chewing through the tires. The teenagers try retrieving the phones from the trunk. Ronnie carefully balances on the edge of the vehicle while the others hold onto her arms, but suddenly the trunk slams shut blood on her fingers. At that exact moment, a police patrol arrives at the beach. The teenagers desperately warn the officer about the danger, but he only laughs at them, assuming they are drunk or high. The policeman calmly steps onto the sand, and at first nothing happens. The survivors realize his thick, heavy boots are protecting him, but when the officer drops his keys and bends down to pick them up, the sand suddenly grabs his arm. He manages to free himself using pepper spray, but moments later, the monster drags him beneath the sand anyway. After seeing this, Mitch comes up with another plan. He wants to wrap towels around his legs, cover them in pepper spray, and run to the police car. But while preparing, the railing of the lifeguard tower suddenly breaks, causing him to fall directly onto the sand. The creature instantly pulls him under. Kaylee can only watch in horror as her friend dies right in front of her. Despite the fear and despair, she refuses to give up. Together with Shonda, she uses broken pieces of the railing as makeshift bridges to rescue the others. But one by one, the teenagers continue dying. Ronnie falls onto the sand and becomes another victim of the monster. Later, the creature evolves even further, growing enormous glowing tentacles and attacking the police car itself. Night falls. Shonda discovers an inflatable raft and uses it to help Kaylee and the badly injured Jonah reach the vehicle. But just then, a giant glowing tentacle erupts from beneath the sand. Kaylee grabs gasoline cans and sets the monster on fire. The creature retreats, allowing the girls to lock themselves safely inside the car. Soon afterward, they realize Jonah has died from his injuries. The next morning, Kaylee and Shonda wake up to someone knocking on the window. A man asks if they are okay. The beach now looks completely normal, and the sand no longer pulls anyone under. For a moment, it seems like the nightmare is finally over, but in the final scene, we see a horrifying sea creature resembling a massive jellyfish quietly swimming toward another beach, filled with completely unsuspecting people.